in 1945, the rising sun gathered its forces for a last stand against an expected U.S. invasion at the island of Okinawa. Throughout March of 1945, the American Navy closed in on Okinawa, 350 miles from Japan.
For the invasion of Okinawa, the Americans assembled a force of 102,000 soldiers, 88,000 Marines, and 18,000 Navy personnel under Lieutenant General Simon Bolivar Buckner Jr., commander of the 10th U.S. Army. Supporting Buckner's troops was a massive fleet of 1,600 ships, including 40 aircraft carriers, 18 battleships, 32 cruisers, and 200 destroyers. The warships lying offshore and carrier-borne aircraft were at battle stations, ready to blast Okinawa into submission.
For 2 weeks, the Americans pounded the island with a barrage 20 times heavier than the bombardment of Nazi defenses on D-Day. This is Okinawa from the air. Unlike Iwo Jima, a large native population lived below. The Japanese decided to make their stand at two ends of the island, but the strongest defensive position was at the Shuri line to the south, where they could hide in caves and hills. Here they would make their final stand of World War II. The Americans progressed slowly, yard by yard, house by house, as the Japanese slowly fell back toward the south end of the island. Like two tired fighters, both sides pounded each other into exhaustion. The battle was brutal. What the GIs thought might be easy became more difficult day by day, as the Japanese plan of luring the American soldiers into killing zones was put into effect. Thousands of Allied soldiers were lost during the first month, and the end seemed nowhere in sight. U.S. General Simon B. Buckner faced increasing pressure to end the battle on Okinawa, so that the ships supplying the Marines would not remain vulnerable to Japanese attack.
In the meantime, the Allied invasion fleet off Okinawa had come under a ferocious assault from the air. The Japanese High Command had assembled more than 2,000 aircraft on airfields in southern Japan and Formosa, today known as Taiwan, to disrupt the invasion of Okinawa. And despite bombing raids on their bases by American B-29s and carrier-borne aircraft in the weeks before Operation Iceberg, many were still ready for action. Leading the Japanese air onslaught were aircraft packed with bombs and aviation fuel, flown by young pilots on a one-way suicide mission. They were the kamikaze, which in Japanese means divine wind. In the 13th century, typhoons scattered and sank two Chinese fleets on their way to invade Japan. The Japanese called these storms the Divine Wind. Now the Japanese High Command hoped that another divine wind would scatter the American fleet off Okinawa. On April 6, 1945, the Japanese Operation Chrysanthemum began with massed kamikaze attacks on the Allied invasion fleet. Although fired up with fanatical devotion to their emperor, most of the kamikaze pilots were novices, and Allied fighters managed to shoot dozens of them down well before they had a chance to do any damage. But there were plenty of kamikaze who did succeed in breaking through and for 2 days, anti-aircraft gunners on board Allied warships fought desperately to knock them out of the sky. An incredible 13 American destroyers were badly damaged or sunk, and it was a threat the Allies needed to take very seriously indeed. In the next 3 months, hundreds more kamikaze pilots hurled their aircraft and themselves at Allied warships, and practically all of them, just as they intended, lost their lives. By the time the fighting on Okinawa came to an end, the kamikazes had sunk 36 Allied vessels and badly damaged another 368. Most of the 4,907 American sailors killed and the 4,874 wounded during the invasion of Okinawa perished during kamikaze attacks. For the US Navy, these were grim statistics, while on Okinawa, the land battle was just beginning. The highest concentration of Japanese forces were to the south of the island, and on the 4th of April, General Buckner ordered the 24th Army Corps to advance in a southerly direction from the American beachhead. As the 7th and 96th Infantry Divisions pushed on towards Shuri, Okinawa's ancient capital, they met fierce resistance from Japanese troops defending a position the Americans had christened Cactus Ridge. There was a bitter hand-to-hand struggle for Cactus Ridge, but by the 9th of April, the Japanese had been toppled from their vantage point.
Suddenly, fire comes from everywhere. Americans are pinned down by mortars and machine guns no matter where they go. Companies get split up running for cover. They barely know where to return fire. After days of easy and rapid advance, casualties pile up by the hundreds.
That was an old artillery training ground, Okinawa, and they knew every foot of the island. They could drop a shell any place they saw us.
After almost a week of uphill fighting, there is little to show for it, except for blood and bandages. The Japanese have the advantage. In the midst of this nightmare, news reaches the front lines. On Mount Yaitake, officers rally the troops with a new strategy. Attack from 2 directions, pinch them into a high, tight spot, then use air and artillery strikes to pummel the 1,200-foot mountaintop. It's an uphill slog against what one officer calls a phantom enemy. For 4 more days, they slowly move up the mountain under withering fire. Then, Marines finally take the top of Mount Yaitake and take a look around. 2,000 Japanese bodies litter the peaks, trenches, and tunnels. Almost to a man, they had fought to the death.